Morning, Clem, everyone. Hope you're having a good day. We are having a good weather day here today. Sunny, and it's going to be mild. So we're really enjoying that. And we are looking forward to the weekend. It's a Philly thing. That's right. Super Bowl. Nervous, hoping they win. That's the fun of the game, is you don't know until it happens. So anyway, obviously anybody knows we're rooting for our Philadelphia Eagles, and so yeah, let's go Eagles. So you can put some nice comments down below about let's go Eagles, and it'll cheer up my day. All week long we've been talking about the fourth commandment of the 10 commandments, about remembering the Sabbath and what does it mean. And we looked at how the primary purpose of the Sabbath was God was providing a day of the week for physical rest, for people to take a break from all of the things going on in their life. It also was a day dedicated to the Lord in one sense, but it wasn't a day of gathering for worship. They literally were not allowed in the Old Testament. The Jewish people were not allowed to leave their house. So it wasn't that they were gathering together for worship. The primary purpose was stop working. They weren't even allowed to cook food. They weren't allowed to hire somebody to cook food, any of that stuff. They had to take a total break. We then looked at what does Jesus have to say about it, and I'm gonna quickly show you what Jesus had to say about it, the Sabbath. But the one thing he did say is, please remember, the Sabbath is there for your good. You're not there to serve the Sabbath. The Sabbath is there to serve you, he said to his fellow Jews living in Israel at the time. He also said, I am the Lord of the Sabbath. I am the one who gets to set the rules. I'm the one who gets to explain what did it really mean and all that. In terms of, did Jesus tell us to follow the Sabbath? Where are the verses that say that Jesus told us to follow the Sabbath? So I'm about to screen share with you and show you. There it is. That is all of the verses where Jesus told us that we have to follow the Sabbath as part of the law of Christ. So as Christians, we learn from all of the Bible. There are things to learn from all of it. But specifically, we are under the law of Christ. And so it's interesting that Jesus repeated 9 of the 10 commandments. And the one that he did not repeat was you have to follow the Sabbath by taking this specific day of the week off. Now, why is that? Isn't that interesting? Isn't that curious that he would do that? Here's the reason why. I stopped screen sharing and I should have left it there. Colossians chapter 2. Therefore, do not let anyone judge you by what you eat or drink, or with regards to religious festivals, a new moon celebration, or a Sabbath day. Don't let anybody judge you, telling you you have to do it or you can't do it. That's not the point. If you want to follow the Sabbath, follow the Sabbath. If you don't want to follow Sabbath in the Old Testament sense, then don't follow it. But please know this, that these are a shadow of things that were to come. The reality, however, is found in Christ. As it turns out, Jesus is our Sabbath, not a day of the week where we stop, although it's not a bad principle. Modern hectic life, we tend to overwork, overfill our schedules, overdo it all the time. I'm not talking to those who are lazy or have motivational problems. I am talking to the people that are just, they do too much. And so the principle is still valuable. Take some time off every week to refresh yourself physically. The process of stopping to refresh yourself physically also has the added benefit of refreshing ourselves mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and otherwise. However, Jesus is our Sabbath, not a day of the week. And so our rest is meant to be found in Jesus. And so there's that famous passage in in the book of Matthew that I've quoted to you many times, where Jesus says, "Come unto me, all you who are weary and downtrodden." And what does he say? "I will give you rest." In other words, Jesus was saying in that moment, "I am your Sabbath." Those things were just a picture of what was to come, but the reality is here now. And the reality is Jesus is our Sabbath. He is the one we are to look to for our rest, spiritually and otherwise. We look to him for rest. And so that's what Jesus was trying to establish. Now, Paul comes along and he says this to the the believers living in Rome. One person considers one day more sacred than another considers every day alike. He likely had in mind these same religious festivals, new moon, but especially the Sabbath day. That was something that the early church was really wrestling with. Many of the Jewish believers wanted the Gentile believers to have to follow all of the Old Testament rules, including the Sabbath. And it was a struggle for them to sort out what is it that comes forward and what is it that doesn't. So Paul's addressing this whole Sabbath thing. And he says this, "For whoever regards one day as special, Sabbath, does so to the Lord." And what's implied is whoever does not regard any particular day as special, he also does it to the Lord. Whoever eats meat does so to the Lord. He's referencing some people would eat meat that was sacrificed in the temple or in other religions, and some people would not. If you're doing that, give thanks to the Lord. And whoever abstains and says, "No, I can't do that," does it to the Lord. So give thanks to the Lord, for none of us lives for ourselves alone, and none of us dies for ourselves alone. If we live for the Lord, and if we die for the Lord. So whether we live or die, we belong to the Lord. For this very reason, Christ died and returned to life so that he might be the Lord of both the dead and the living. Did you catch that? Jesus is our Sabbath. Find your rest in him. And secondly, however you choose to follow the principle of Sabbath in your life, you're doing it to the Lord. You're doing it in order to honor the Lord. Don't get into arguments with people. Don't feel like you have to impose your understanding on somebody else. There's a whole wing of the church called the Seventh-day Adventists, and they believe Saturday is still the day of worship and a break. Great. Good for them, because they're doing it to the Lord. Much of the church believes that the first day of the week became our Sabbath, and so most of us worship on Sunday. Great. Do that for the Lord. But whatever you're doing, find your rest in the Lord and do it for the honor of the Lord, and you'll be all good. So that's my word for the day. I did it in 8.5 minutes. I have another minute and a half. I could talk about the Philadelphia Eagles and how I think they're going to win this weekend, but I don't want to go too far out on a limb because I might have to eat my words by Monday. But anyway, seriously, hope you have a good weekend, and I look forward to seeing you all on Monday.